Claude skills are the best thing to learn if you want to increase efficiency within Claude. Today, I'm going to break down everything you need to know about skills. We're going to talk about what skills are, how they work behind the scenes, how to create your own skills, and how to add pre-made skills. First things first, let's talk about what skills actually are. Skills are a package of instructions and resources geared toward completing a single task. You can think of it as handing Claude a step-by-step guide on how to complete that task. Before skills, if you had a repeatable task that you wanted Claude to do, you would have to prompt Claude with the instructions, upload the relevant files, and you'd have to repeat this every time you wanted to complete the task. Now, with skills, you can package that all together and ask for Claude to complete the task without any added work. Claude then is able to pull all the instructions and necessary resources to complete that task. Next, let's talk about the anatomy of a skill. This is the actual structure that is built behind the scenes. All a skill really is a folder of different resources that allows Claude to complete that task. The main portion of this is going to be the skill.md file. This is a markdown file, which is just a glorified text file that includes the name of the skill, a description of what the skill does, and the step-by-step instructions on how to complete that skill. In the next section, we'll talk about why the name and description are important, but just think of this as the actual contents of the skill. Beside the skill.md file, you can also include various resources through folders. The ones that Claude outlines in their documentation is the scripts folder, the references folder, and the assets folder. It's pretty clear how you could use these. You basically give Claude any additional resources it would need outside of the step-by-step instructions. So, for example, if you had a really quick Python script that you needed to execute for that skill, you could put it in a scripts folder. If you have an SOP that you want Claude to reference while completing the skill, you could put that in the references folder. Or if you have logos that are needed for the skill or other assets, you could put it in an assets folder. There's other resource folders that you can create, and as you start to look at other pre-made skills, you will start to see those possibilities. Next, I want to walk you through what is actually happening behind the scenes when Claude uses a skill. This is important because it makes it a lot more clear what's going on and why Claude is making certain decisions. So anytime you ask Claude to help you with a task, it will basically load all of the skills with their name and their description. Like I said earlier, this is why the name and description are so important, because after it loads all its skills in, it's going to compare your prompt to all of the names and descriptions of the skills available, and then it will decide if any of the available skills are relevant for that task. If there are any relevant skills, it's going to pull that skill in and then follow the step-by-step instructions in order to complete that task. The great thing about this is that you don't need to explicitly ask Claude to use a skill. Every time you ask for a task, it's going to look at those names and descriptions, and if the description fits the task at hand, it will bring that skill in and complete those step-by-step instructions. This is great because it will pull in skills whenever they are relevant, and it will leave them out if they are not. All right, so now that we understand what skills are and how they work behind the scenes, let's actually talk through how to add skills and how to create your own skills. If you want some ideas of skills that you can create, there are a bunch of pre-made skills by Anthropic and other skills from various third-party tools that give you a good idea of what's possible. If you want to look at what skills are available, if you're in the Claude interface, the Customize tab is where you're going to go. And then there's going to be a tab called Skills. From here, you're going to see all the skills that you have added. And if you don't have any added, it should have a button that says, add skills or browse skills. Up here on the top right, there's a browse button. If you click this button, it's going to open up all of the different skills that you have and what's available to you outside of that. So here I have 3 that I have shared and created. If someone else has shared a skill with you, this is where you'll see it. If you're in a Teams plan, you're going to have your organization, which basically means your admin can upload a set of skills if it's universal across your entire company, and everyone will be able to access it from here. Finally, there's a tab for Anthropic's pre-made skills. These are basically skills that they made that they think would be universal across all users or a large set of users. And this is a great place to kind of see what's possible with skills. You can scroll through and see some of their different skills and what they do. And if you click into them, it's going to show you that skill.md file and you can see how the structure plays out. So for example, here's the description that is loaded in anytime you ask Claude to do a task. If I had this skill installed, every time I ask for a task, it would load this description to see if it's relevant. Then you can see how there are step-by-step instructions and guidance on how to complete the task. Over here on the left, and this is a good example of additional different types of resources you can add. This is a Canvas design skill, so it creates visual art in these formats. Over here, you can see here's a bunch of external resources. It's a bunch of different fonts and other resources of those types that this skill can reference and use when completing this skill. So this isn't within those folders that I originally mentioned, but here's an idea of another resource folder you could use. To add these pre-made skills, you can go in and you can install them, and then they'll be available to you. Or if you're out here, you can also just click the add button here and it will add it. Once you add a skill, you can still go in and see the description, and here's the skill.md file, and here is all of the external resources that this skill uses. As you can see, again, here's scripts, here's references, but then there's eval viewer, which is a different set of scripts, or sub agents, which is a whole nother thing that we can go down. But you can kind of get an idea for what that skill can do, and you can go through and see the different resources it has. So now that we understand how to add pre-made skills, let's talk about how you can create your own skills. Again, to access this, you're going to go to the Customize tab, and you should be within the Skills tab. So there's a few different ways that you can create your own skills. You can see those options if you go up to the Add button in the top right. There's 3 different methods to creating your own skill. The first is going to be Create with Claude, and this is going to open a chat interface with Claude, and it's going to walk you through step by step on how to create a skill, ask you what you want the skill to do, ask you for any needed resources, and then it's going to take all of that information and package it into a skill itself. If you want to be a little more hands-on, you can choose Write Skill Instructions, and that is going to open up this prompt window where you can name the skill, give a description of the skill, and then you can give step-by-step instructions on what you want that skill to do. Finally, you can upload a skill. What this means is if you find a skill online that you really like, that you trust, you can download the files and then you can upload it here and it will add that skill. That also means that you can build a skill outside of Claude by using, as I said before, the skill.md file and the different reference folders. And then you can package that up into a zip folder and upload the skill. If you're having issues with formatting, you can also upload everything you have so far to Claude, and it will do a good job of packaging that up as a skill for you. Just as some examples of what's possible with a skill, I'm going to talk through some of the uses that we have at Diesel House. One skill that I use multiple times a week is the call debrief skill. So at Diesel House, we have client meetings every week, depending on the project. And after the call, I used to spend a lot of time going back through notes, trying to figure out what I needed to do, add items to my to-do list, decide who I need to email or what tickets I need to add to our project management tools. So I basically built a skill to take care of that. So what it does is it takes the transcript from our meeting and then it builds actionable items for me. And I have Claude set up to my to-do list and our project management tools, and it's able to draft tickets for our project management tools, and I also can add items to my to-do list. Another example would be our weekly client meeting skill. What this does is basically compile a summary of the past week's work, and it builds it into a repeatable document. This has been really great for creating a system around our weekly calls and allowing us to document our progress through projects. That's just a couple ideas within our agency business that you can use skills for. Obviously, every business is going to look different. So decide what would be good for your business and, just start experimenting. All right, that sums up the information you need to know to get started using and building your own skills. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching. If you know your business needs AI, but you're not sure where to start, Claude School for Business is the perfect resource. We've built it specifically for business owners and operators who are ready to integrate AI but don't know how to take the first step. It is completely free to join, and you get access to foundational courses about AI and the Anthropic ecosystem. It also has a guide to get your business OS set up. If you're interested in joining, check out claudeschool.com or check the link in the description. Thanks.